the companies that they run they have the robust financial positions. In our view, marketing is one of the most significant part of the corporate world. Production is, I think, more important than the production, more important than the operational part, because if you're not able to sell, then all this production leads to inventory buildup. And how do you do it? I know one of the panel is from Kia India, others Unilever and OnePlus. So how do you compete when you're competing? We've seen that Kia becomes so successful in short span of time, and not only in India, but I'm seeing in other countries too. The Kia is very through its robust marketing, it's been able to cultivate a niche in the automobile sector. So similar is the Unilever and OnePlus. So we would like to know from our guests that how they, because as they are thick into the businesses, but our students are raw, but they do study subjects. But tomorrow they will also go to the corporate world and they would manage similar things. So I think it will be the interest of the students to know as to how these gentlemen in the marketing departments, how they lead their strategies, how they do what they do, and what are the kind of challenges they face. Because good things we always know, but the negatives, that setbacks that you get when you're doing things as per plan, that's equally important to know. So that the students of today, when they go to the harsh world of reality, they are already prepared, and they should know that things are not they're not as glamorous as they see it in sitting in their classrooms and the homes and outside. But it's a difficult word. It's a difficult word. It's the competition is so intense. It is so so it's hard to survive in this world. So how companies do survive and what is their strategies? I think that will be that should be the talk of today. And I'm sure with the kind of experience that our speakers have with them, the students will immensely benefit from their talk. And I, on behalf of the college, on behalf of my colleagues, my management, my students, I got very warm welcome to our guests. So, and look forward to not only lecture today, but also look forward to asking them that if when we open up physically, they can inspire the students physically too. And because this is a young generation, and young generation always look forward to listening from the leaders, from people who are actually in the businesses of running the companies, and that's what motivates them. So apart from the academicians like us and my colleagues, but they also look forward to hearing from the practical people, the people who actually run these companies. I'm so honored that we have been able to get these speakers today, and look forward to hearing from them. Over to you, Gurvinder.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Gauri, now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. We will now proceed to the most important segment of this session, as we feel honored and privileged to have a panel of such prominent speakers with us. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the event, please type them into the chat box in your control panel or in the comment section for those who are watching it live. We would request the attendees to be precise with their questions, and it would be better if you can mention the speaker whom you would like to ask the question. We'll bring them up afterwards as we have a question answer session with the speakers. Now over to you, Sneha.
So our first speaker on the panel is Mr. Shakti Upadhyay sir. Currently, he is the head of marketing and public relations at Kia Motors India and has been the chief architect behind the success of brand Kia with its impeccable positioning in the Indian market. He has been instrumental in driving the vision, growth, and strategy for the brand through advertising, public relations, digital, and experiential marketing. Being one among the top 30 CMOs for 2020, he has also been the recipient of the Marketer of the Year award twice in a row. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Shakti sir.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you, everyone, Dr. Singh, and everyone who has spoken. I feel this is going a bit formal, and I would like to just lay my hair down a bit. I'm here to precisely not be giving sort of a, as the topic says, lecture, but yes, I would be. It'll be lovely for me to share my experiences with the students because as I was speaking in the pre-talk session when I actually logged on 5-10 minutes earlier. So it actually is a great experience to be amongst the students because it kind of teleports me back into my days when we used to be students in the college. So it'll be a very informal session, and I'll be dividing it into three small parts, which are not clearly defined yet. But yeah, the first one will be I'll be giving a small introduction about myself. I'll be letting you know the story that we have traveled with Kia brand in India, how we have made it in a very small nutshell, just to give you the finest nuances, what's there for you to pick up as learnings. And I'll be reserving some time towards the end of my session for questions, where I'll be speaking to students as to what all they have to talk to me about. So a quick introduction. I'm from a small town, Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. I'm a chemical engineer by profession, and I've done my master's in advertising and communication. I started my career with a small advertising agency, and from there I've worked with brands like Hyundai, Samsung, and Kia now. So that's a brief nutshell about me. I'll be straight away coming to the topic for the day, where I'll on sharing my experiences on brand Kia, so that I could be sharing some of the experiences. I hope my screen is visible for everyone.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you. So I would say marketing is not a very heavy term, as we used to study in our college long back. I still remember the heavy and thick books that had a lot of diagrams and that lot of text written there. But my experience, which spans through advertising and then to marketing communications, now marketing and PR, tells me that everything boils down to the story, and the story behind the product or the brand that we want to sell in market. Consumer is like your friend. So he's like, you can tell him a joke, you can have a laugh with him. He has to speak back to you. That's most important, which is the feedback, for which, as Dr. Singh said, digital is becoming very, very important to keep on getting the feedback on what do people think about you, about your brand. But at the end of the day, what my experience says in a nutshell is all we need is to sell our story and not the product. We need to make a brand, not a company. And that's how the brand Kia was started. I would say we started building the brand in 2018, while we launched our first product in 2019 August. But we were busy creating ground since 2018 mid with brand Kia. In terms of the big pedestal, or the big idea that we had to think at that point in time, was how to reach the top of the mind of the Indian customers. It's because at that time uh, we were almost the last entrant into a segment of products which were heavily dominated by biggies, or like Maruti, Hyundai, Tata, who have been in the country, and there was huge competition. The products of automobiles had almost become commodities, and they were being marketed like that. So if someone was selling a car, a product, a car as a product, he would only talk about the product, not even thinking about the consumer. What does he want to listen? What will tempt him to buy the product? It was all about engine, horsepower. It was all about talking the various variants in which the product would be available. But the challenge that Kia had was, how do we become noticeable in such a big market where everyone has been selling? They have products on the road. They have customers who are living the experiences of the products. They have so much data to learn from those consumers, their experiences, to make their products better. And we were not only a new company, we were making our own factory, a new factory, and we were launching a product which was launched for the first time in the world. So Seltos, Kia's first product that we launched in India, was the first launch in the world. The car wasn't there anywhere else. If I talk about what Kia has been, so Kia is globally a pretty aggressive player. We are eighth largest automaker in the world, and we are known for our designs. So, and this was a fact even before we came to India. We had won almost 65 plus design awards, presence across 180 countries, and we had almost 15 manufacturing units across the world. That was brand Kia as we entered India. But in India, as we entered, the biggest challenge was we had no awareness at all. If we think about brands which are available globally, like maybe a BMW, Mercedes, Jaguar, Lamborghini, they don't need an introduction. All they need is a name, and the aspiration travels through the consumer's mind and gets into his heart, which tends to the purchase action. In case of Kia, when we did a research across the Indian consumers, our total awareness in the country was just 1%. And this was 2018 September, when we were on the verge of launching our brand, which means that that 1% was also amongst the car intenders, not amongst the population of the country. So you can understand that absolutely no one knew us. And as I said, the main issues, there were Goliaths occupying big shares. Market was being driven by cost of acquisition and cost of running, where you know there were products like Maruti which are driven by brain, and some of the products by Hyundai which are driven by brain. These products had become so much prevalent, or they had become so much common, that people used to fear of not buying them. The feeling of, if I don't buy a Maruti, what else is there to buy? Or if I don't buy a Honda, I may lose on the mileage. I may lose on the acquisition cost. I may pay high. So there were products which had deep roots and brands which had deep roots. And obviously their preferences by swayed by road presence, because they could see the cars on road. The biggest issue in India is getting a product. If you have to buy a product in a category that no one else has brought, or has bought, or you have not seen it, you need a very high amount of should I say, you need to be highly highly risk taking. As I said, we had 1% unaided awareness, and obviously the other players had trust and heritage, and there were rational preferences which were winning over designs and aesthetics. So there were fantastic products like General Motors. GM had products which were amazing, like Cruise. I had one. The finish, the design of the product was amazing, but they had failed because mind was dominating purchase over over design and aesthetics. Exactly at that time, we had one big issue also lurking towards us, which was that the Indian passenger market vehicles sales were declining consistently in 2018 and 2019. The biggies were cutting their productions, and that was exactly when our factory was getting ready. So our experience when we were looking at making the marketing plans, our experience was that chaos is actually something which helps, because when everyone doesn't know what to do, if we think deep, we do deep analysis of the consumer, his mindset, then there are some nuances which can be brought in, which present the brand in a completely different set of light, in a completely different light, to inspire the consumer to try and to go for the trial of the product. Whenever a brand is launched, the most important part is the people who buy it for the first time. What is their mindset? And our experience with Kia tells us that if you attack the mindset of the consumer, sales is automatic. All you have to do is to find out what are their unmet needs. What does the Indian consumer look at? And there were very, very clear insights. There were common products, established products. There was nothing which was new, which was being told to them in an interesting manner, where the product selling was not being done, where no one was speaking to them in a language very easy and friendly, not selling horsepower or gears or automatics, no technical language. So that's when we decided to create a story which is on design. Because in a world of product parity, design is a big differentiator and it creates a wow moment for the product. The biggest insight that we had was there was no product that the consumer would feel it looks good on them or it's different. There were clearly set of consumers who would want to go for something that is anti-establishment. Just like when everyone was doing a zig, people would want to do a zag. And they were trying brands which were failing because of whatever reasons, maybe the products. With Kia, everything was just perfect in terms of the product. We are global quality leaders. Uh, we were very, very sure of the product quality, the engines, the overall service that we were bringing in. We just needed the early trial by attacking the early adopters of the product, and that was the objective. But how to create that gray cell or to how to shadow that gray cell in the consumer's mind so that he goes for a Kia product was the way to do it was creating a story that would make him fall in love with the brand, and that's exactly what was done. As I said, we have been global winners of design awards. We have got more than 65 plus awards globally. And as I see this slide, I haven't been able to update it because we've been sort of busy. But yeah, today the awards stand more than 73 globally. So we looked at a simple SWOT analysis. What are our design? What are the strengths of our brand? The strength was design and quality. And weaknesses were simple. There was no awareness. There were no products on the road. This is something which is a very big obstacle. Whenever any new product comes in the market, just excuse me. Whenever a new product comes in the market, the biggest hurdle to purchase is seeing someone use it. If there are people not using it, you're not seeing them using it, then that is the biggest hurdle to purchase, because India is predominantly a risk averse market. People don't take risk. They would go and buy a common product. So how to change that mindset was one of our objectives. How to create an anti-establishment buying mindset where people would not buy popular products and they would try something new. We had an opportunity that we could launch Kia brand as such before we launched the Seltos. Unlike some of the other marketeers who launch the brand along with the product. For example, I would say when some of our competition like MG Motors, when they came in, no one knew what MG was, but they started the complete campaign and everything with their product. In case of Kia, we did this in two phases. First, we introduced the Kia brand to the consumers by telling them what we are and what we do, and then we brought in the Seltos. The one of the major threat that we had was we were fearing that we may not get stereotyped as a new entrant, because we were coming in a segment which was very expensive. And Seltos, when it was launched, it was in a range of 10 to 19 lakhs, which is almost a second car for most of the people. It's an expensive product. It's a very high consideration product to buy. So the challenge here became double: how to sell a new brand, a new product, and then how to sell it at a very, very high price, because the product was coming expensive, not unlike Hyundai, who came in with a Centro, or Maruti, which came in with a Maruti 800. They were small cars. But here we were coming in the middle of the expensive segment. So we looked at creating a unique, very unique identity and being different. Why did we take on design as the core of Kia brand? Was obviously because we had won so many awards. We focused on Kia's core strengths of design and quality. And all we created in the mind of the consumer was a story that whenever you look at a good design, you have to get reminded of Kia. And Kia is all about designs. Kia is all about the best designs in the world. Our consumer is, this is what everyone targets. So all the brands, I would say this is a pretty theoretical slide, but in order to give you all an idea, yes, we also targeted the newly rich professional, the young professionals, people like you who would be getting into the buying line maybe after 2 or 3 years from now. Everything we were targeting was new, tech savvy, socially connected, willing to buy new technology, and obviously the values and the cars and driving habits. So, in a way, when we moved to the Kia brand launch, we decided on our story. I strongly believe in this saying that before selling a product, before putting a product in front of the consumer on the table, you have to define what you stand for as a brand. You have to define the core values and tone of voice. And then you have to be very, very consistent in communicating on those terms. So it's like the brand which brings the product, that is almost the mother which brings in the offspring later, and the offspring carries the name. That's the learning which we have, which we applied while we moved ahead. This is a rather busy slide, but yeah, as I've already said, we wanted to capture design. Uh, how to capture design? We just showcased that the experience of a Kia design is something that you can never get anywhere else. While our brand launch campaign happened in 2018, November, December, the product launch Seltos happened in second half of 2019. So it was almost a gap of 10 months before we launched the first product. The philosophy which we went ahead was we are all about a great design which makes the world a better place. As Dr. Singh said that during the COVID times, digital has become very, very important. But as a late starter brand, Kia had an almost an unfair advantage that we studied the market for a long time before coming into existence. So we knew that the consumer is all about one screen that he has in his hands. Today, that screen has become almost almost an integral part of our lives. Anything that we do is on the screen. So even before launching the brand, we had put everything for the consumer on the screen in terms of brand Kia. Right from buying a car, from choosing a car to booking a car to getting the car serviced, everything can be done on a mobile. This was the status in 2019 when we launched the product, much before COVID. We were completely digital savvy. So we started the entire campaign, the Kia brand launch campaign, with core focus on digital. And there, as you will see, as you are seeing on the screen, there are four stages that we crossed. We caught their attention by something which was very unique. We made them interested through the unique storytelling on our social handles. And when the product came in, we evoked with the overall communication that was created. The way the product was presented was in a completely new age format, in a language that they understand. While everyone would say that uh, the next level of automobile, Kia launched the first product by saying badass by design. Now that was pre-decided, predetermined, that when I'm going to speak to the consumer, I will speak to him like I am his friend. So the lingo was kept very, very new age, and it had a lot of attitude, because a car is all about attitude and SUV is all about attitude. So we looked at obviously the last stage being the behavioral action. This is a small snapshot of the brand launch campaign that we did, wherein we told all the consumers about the design story, how there are unique inspirations which make a Kia car, and then in the end, we reveal that at Kia, our designs are unique because our inspirations are unique. For the sake of time, I'm moving forward, but yeah, I would request if all of you can go and watch it on our channels. And yes, which was a very, very unique storytelling approach. Media was talking about it. And this particular campaign became very, very successful. It went to the top leaderboards in brand equity, even before the product was launched. So in March 2019, this was the time when this campaign was finished. And Seltos was launched in August 2019. So even before that, as a brand, we established ourselves first before moving to the products. And we almost went to the Asia Pacific level Google, the most watched ad. And this particular communication, the way we introduced, has become the most watched, automobile category ad ever in YouTube in India. So what was different? We created a beautiful story around the brand, where because in this campaign, we did not talk anything about the car. All we spoke about was about the unique inspirations or how the designs of products are different. They're beautiful, and this was not something which was only a campaign, which was only advertising. I would say advertising was just 10 to 15% of it. There was a huge thrust on new age media, digital, where we were being the most talked about, most conversed, and most searched brand already, with the unique activities that we were doing on SNS handles, the new age SNS handles like Insta, FB is almost now, I would say, is on the verge of going down in terms of popular choice. So Insta, FB, Twitter, these all channels were buzzing even before the product. And then there was a very strong foundation laid by PR in terms of, okay, we are Kia, this is what we stand for, and we are making a factory in this place. Go and please have a look at it. We have serious business plans. And then we started talking about the new product. So towards the end of this launch campaign, we started moving towards talking about Seltos with strategic leaks about the product at different times, so that people get interested as to this, the first product that is coming from Kia. I have got to look at it. So what was different was it was a beautiful story across all channels, digital, PR, advertising, even on BTL. We had fun, and actually serious fun with consumers. We did not tell them that a car has four wheels, a car has 200 bhp, it is automatic. We did not speak anything about the product. We had a communication which was very engaging, and it was consistent, and there was no hard sell at that time. So moving to the first product launch, when all this was already done, we prepared ground for the launch of Seltos. Seltos was again a product which was going to break all the conventions in the segment. When Seltos was entering the segment, the largest selling product was Creta, and Creta was an outdated one at that time. It had dated looks. The other products were Nissan Kicks, and there was MG Hector. Seltos was going to break all the conventions with a very aggressive styling, which was designed by keeping the Indian consumer in mind. We did a lot of research to find out that when people look at buying an SUV, they want everyone else around them to be afraid of them on the road. And that is the reason why they buy an SUV, because they don't buy a car, they buy an attitude which they want to wear as they are on the road. They want respect. So with this sort of an insight, the product was almost made like a raging bull, like the those sharp eyes. It's inspired by tiger nose at places. So this was all designed keeping in mind the Indian consumer psyche. Something that keep having a look at Seltos in the rear camera would tend this person who's in front of the car to give way to the Seltos. It was a smart product, and it was obviously from the world famous Kia design studio. When we are looking at how do we present, again we went to do something. I'm sorry for these cute disturbances because I'm speaking from my home. So just a second. So when we looked at how to bring this product alive, Again, we looked at breaking clutter with communication by being someone who's different. And when everyone was saying that I'm the strongest, I'm the fastest, I'm the easiest to service, I am the best product, it's like a room full of people wearing all whites having a party, and there a devil walks in with horns on his head, all black, and he says, okay, you may be whiter, you may be whitest, you may be white, but I'm black and I'm different. That's exactly that was exact insight with which we brought Celtos. And when we said badass, we did not mean about the product only. We said about creating a consumer imagery for the person who uses the product. So it's about projecting a consumer, the user image on the product. That's why Celtos was launched on the premise of badass by design. The life insight obviously was good men are remembered always, but badasses are never forgotten. With this insight, we launched Celtos on the premise of badass by design. It was for the youthful people with a rebellious spirit, which is very inherent in youth. And here I would say youth is not age. Youth is something which is a state of mind. I would say there are people who are always young. They are always young by heart. So, in fact, even after launching Saltos, I personally don't feel bad if I look at someone who's a 55 plus who emerges out of a Saltos. I say, yes, this man is a young at heart, and he's my product, target. We moved forward with other products like Carnival, where we took forward the same uh, promise of the brand on design. So we started with Kia makes great designs. Then Celtos came in with badass by design. Why we were bringing in Carnival? Carnival is for people who are real. Carnival is a product which is sometimes an office, sometimes a studio, sometimes a living room for yourself. So it's a very premium niche minivan. When we brought it again, we took forward the same promise of design by saying it's extravagant by design. Then we brought Sonnet. So again, Sonnet was to a more younger, tech-savvy consumer, more youthful. We brought in the consumer angle again by going a little younger to the audience, by breaking clutter, by saying wild by design, whereas other products like Venue were saying connected to excitement. So these products, the way they've been established, these names, the wild by design is not just an advertising tagline. This is something which has been proven across the entire IMC, including PR, BTL, digital, ATL, through events, everything where we have communicated and given different reasons as to why this product is such, why this product is different from everyone else. So in the end, we could make this equation that Kia is all about design, and Celtos, Sonnet, and Carnival, they are all Kia designs for different segments, different consumers. But at the end of it, they are all Kias. They create a different imagery of the user who uses them. But the common factor is that the design of a Kia product makes you feel special. It gives you an attitude that others won't give. So I would say today, as we sell the products, it is something which is not just a car. When you use a Kia, you feel special. You feel you are much different from others. You are distinct, and it gives you a lot of confidence and attitude when you take a Kia product. So in the end, summing it up, it was all about great design, which makes the world a better place. That's where we are as of now. If I could say four things that we did throughout the journey was we were very different, completely different from competition when we started communicating, marketing our products, right from products to places where we were doing it, the dealerships. In Kia dealerships, the paperwork is the least. Everything goes on mobile phones, everything goes on tabs. Uh, as Dr. Singh said, that COVID has changed the way marketing is being done. So with Kia, we had this pole position because we were the last entrant. So we had already created a network which was completely digital ready. So for example, today You don't need to visit a Kia showroom also. There are apps where you can book an appointment. The showroom executive will give you a complete demo of the car on video call itself. And after that, you can book, you can take finance schemes, you can choose your accessories, you can do the down payment, and we'll deliver Kia to your house. That's something which made us COVID, which sort of took care of all the COVID fears, and that is why we were very happy in the times when the COVID period was happening, because the while others had the consumer visits dropping to the lowest levels, Kia's social channels and our apps were having lots of visits for the consumers. So these are the four things which kind of sum up the Kia journey in India till now. I would say this is what I firmly believe in, that long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity. That's something that we believe. So as I speak to you, I'm preparing for the next product, and I can assure you that you will get the fourth one also falling in line on design, exactly as we started, because we believe in being consistent. So last but not the least, these are some quick learnings that I've had. So I'll be sharing them with all of you. You have to learn as many softwares as possible in the corporate life. It's very difficult to keep on working and then learning softwares, because there is no time, there is more thinking. Sometimes there are more things to be done rather than learning. That's not possible. Take care of your health, because there are a lot of my colleagues who have got serious health issues just at the age of 40, 42, because they have had some addictions, which is not good, because then it's like you get out from the cricket pitch when you are about to make a century. So your health is the only companion. In the corporate life, there are no friends, only colleagues. And even from a guy from finance can be your competition. You have to follow your passion, I would say, because I actually love cars. And that's why, although I detoured for 8 years towards Samsung, but later on I realized that I have to sell a car again. So I came back to Kia. Uh, if possible, try to sell a product that you love, which is your passion, and then you will definitely do twice as good of a job. And in corporate life, obviously, integrity is the biggest virtue. Otherwise, again, you may be a great performer, good going, everything going strong, but one integrity issue and you're out of the system. Plus, it brings a bad name, so you become unemployable. On the bottom, but on the top of everything, everyone has to be humble, because I personally feel that howsoever smart we are, there are always smarter people in the world. So no one can be the best. So that's why being humble is something which is very, very important. So that brings me to the end of my experience sharing with all of you. Uh, I don't know about the way, I mean, the way we are having this session, but in case anyone wants to ask questions, I think I'll be okay to answer some of them at this time.
Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening us with your precious words. We have a set of questions from our audience which we would like you to answer. So the first question is, what was your first win that made you confident that you were doing the right thing?
Okay. Am I audible? Yeah, I
Yes,
am.
sir.
Uh, I would say, see, with Kia brand launch, while we launched the brand in 2019, 2018, September, October, we were doing campaigns. We did not know how much people know us, because obviously we were doing researches, but the awareness was getting raised by 1%, 2%, 3%. So September 2018, the brand launch happened, and Seltos in August 2019. I think the most successful day that I have had in my life was when we announced the booking of Seltos online, even without telling the price. Prices were not available, specifications were not available. On day one of booking, our website crashed, and that was the first product from our company. We ended up booking some 32,000 products in that booking period, and on day one, we had booked some 6,500 cars. From a company which had 1% awareness in July 18 when I joined in. I remember those days when I used to be in the elevator. People used to see this badge on my coat, and they used to ask, "What is this company? What do you do?" Which was just less than 1 year back. So I think that was something which told me that yes, we were moving in the right direction. A big success.
That was beyond inspiring, sir, and we really hope that this encourages more people to build their own empire. Now, moving on, how is the marketing process for companies who are already established and are popular different from the companies who are trying to make their name in the market?
See, I would say, first of all, there is no process. So, what is the most interesting part is um, it's like making your own wheel, then making it round, and then making a cart, and then kind of moving your cart by yourself. So, when I joined in, there were no processes because we were new in the country. I applied some of the learnings from my previous companies, but the most important part when you are entering into a market is a razor sharp understanding of two things. What is the current product parity level, and what is the consumer mindset about buying? If you know these two things, then everything else can be arranged. And here, English is the biggest enemy. So it's not about English. Just take two simple words or two simple lines, that what is the current market operating at, and how, what is not being offered to the consumer. As long as we know these two things, everything else is okay. Maybe may do researches, everyone would have different ways to tackle the market, but these are the two most important things that we knew first. And then later on, the first step was creating awareness, because when no one knows you, then no one would buy you. First step was creating awareness, and then bringing in the product later. So I would say in our case, it was a longer process. We did not bring the product first. We created brand first, and then we created awareness for a longer time. And after, when the puree was just ready, then we put in the ingredients of the product. So that's in a way the process that we followed.
That was really helpful, sir, and I think we all can implement this in our lives, irrespective of the field that we choose. So, moving on to our last question for today. What's the question you are most tired of hearing on this subject, and what would you like to say about it so you have never to answer it again?
So, as a person, I would say this is the question which is being asked to me uh, a lot of times, which is, where are you going to move next? So that is the question which I don't want to answer, and it's a personal question though, but it kind of it sometimes people call up, people say that so are you looking at moving to another category, or mobile phones, or wherever? What is your next step? That's the question which I don't want to answer right now, because frankly, I'm in love with cars, and I don't think when you create your own brand, when you create your own empire, then it is really difficult to move away or to leave that empire. So I would say that's the question.
Thank you, sir, for sharing this personal experience. There is so much we can learn only through such experiences. We thank you, sir, for you have so beautifully answered the questions of the audience, which must have cleared the doubts of students and must have inspired them to dream big and work hard. Now over to you, Gauri.
Thank you, sir. Our second speaker on the panel is Mr. Pranay Harish Rao, the marketing work stream lead at Unilever, Netherlands. He is a global marketer with 14 years of experience in marketing products in varied geographies, working for companies like Creolite, Kimberly-Clark, Kraft Heinz, and ITC Limited. He holds a degree in marketing from the Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode. Mr. Pranay has experience in brand marketing and digital marketing and has built and led marketing teams exhibiting excellent leadership, teamwork, and the ability to catalyze positive action. With this, we turn the time to you, Pranay, sir.
Hi, good morning. Can you see me?
Yes, sir.
Hi. Sorry, good afternoon. For me, it's early morning, yes, so that's the reason I said good morning. I hope all of you all are doing well. Everybody's in the pink of health. So I just heard the last few slides of Shakti's presentation. That was really interesting. And I haven't gone through in the same form as in I haven't gone through what my personal experiences are, but I've gone through what marketing is and what marketing seems to be to people and how it would be in terms of communication, message, etc. This is something I thought I would be able to really talk about well. Also, along with it, I'll also talk about my experiences in life, and that probably can be linked together. So if you could just share my slides and I could then start off.
So you have the right to share your screen.
Oh, okay. Then you'll have to just hold on a minute. I assume it's preloaded somewhere, so it's just going to run through the slides. Okay, so I'll just take you through my experience per se. So I'm an alumni of IIM Kozhikode, also a computer engineer from Mumbai University. I started my career with ITC, worked there for around 4 years, launched a brand called Vivel. I hope it's still there in India. So that was me. From there, I shifted to the Horlicks innovations team, where I worked on brands like there was a noodles called Foodles we had launched and a couple of other products. Then I worked with Kraft Heinz during the Kraft Heinz acquisition. Was the brand head for Complan. So Complan, as you know, was one of our biggest brands at that point of time. So that was an interesting experience. Then I had a global experience. I went to Kimberly-Clark. So Kimberly-Clark, I handled Huggies, which is Kimberly-Clark's largest brand. I was handling Southeast Asia at the point of time, Malaysia, Brunei, a couple of other markets. Then post that, I came back to India and I joined as a CMO of House of Vanita Dungri, which is a completely different experience where it was all apparel, fashion, and something completely different from what I was doing, which is FMCG and foods largely. So along these years, obviously, it has been many different hats and many different experiences, largely innovation driven, interesting experience to really work on. So what I'm going to share now is more about what marketing means to me, then specifics on my career, because I don't know whether I've done enough to actually tell you all learnings on it. But as I go through it, this is all stuff that I've learned and I've worked on. So I'm just sharing my slides right now. Apologies, we use more Teams more than Zoom, so I'm not very comfortable on this one.
So if you're having trouble, then we can probably share our screen and show the PPT.
No, I'm sharing. No worries.
All right.
So I'm getting some kind of screen here. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So starting off with marketing. So the reason I kind of went through this process is because for me, it was about talking to you all about what marketing means. And as I speak, I'll also probably talk about what my experiences on this were. So what is marketing? So if you can see my screen, I hope you can see the stuff on the side also, the posters on the side. What typically is marketing is an action or business of promoting and selling products. This is a very typical marketing experience or a marketing definition. And what you talk about marketing is how you sell products within a business. This includes market research. This includes advertising, everything. In my career, interestingly, I started my career actually in sales because in FMCG, you have to do some years of sales. Then I shifted to market research, where I was handling the consumer research for ITC. This included a lot of tobacco and personal care, which we were launching Vivel and Fiamma at that point of time. Then I shifted to obviously branding in a complete manner. And this is where I joined a team which was launching Vivel, and I was working on Vivel shampoo specifically. So that was part of my experience. But for me, marketing over the years I've seen is not just about product and selling. Marketing is about what I think is any activity which triggers an intended action from the recipient. And this is the reason I'm trying to put this out is a lot of times we think marketing is about selling products. No, marketing is about when the army wants to recruit somebody, that's marketing. When a leader wants votes for himself, that's marketing. When you go for something which is cause-based, which is that eating meat is a problem and go vegetarian, which PETA advocates, that also is marketing. In fact, A lot of marketing also goes into programs like, for example, the anti-vax thing. We may not agree with all of it. We may not agree with most of it, I'm saying. But the point is, even that involves some amount of marketing, some amount of collateral. There are people, dedicated people who sit and create communication. These communication have touch points, and that's how marketing happens. So if I go through it, I'm saying, why is marketing important? So Milan Kundera, and he's a famous author, says that business has only two functions: marketing and innovation. While obviously as a marketing person, I'll keep telling you marketing is important. The point is that if you see any of the biggest companies in the world, they are based either on innovation, which is completely a new product like an Apple, or you can talk about something like even an Amazon, which is an innovation in terms of product experience or consumer experience. But innovation is generally based on marketing. So no company can do well without marketing innovation. So while the core, and we call it back office, is finance, supply chain, etc., and they are very critical functions. Don't take me wrongly; they are very, very critical functions. But without marketing or without innovation, you can never launch a new product or launch an experience which helps you gain market share or which helps you grow business. Which is why they say marketing innovation is probably one of the most critical, which is why marketing innovation is the most critical functions of a business. Now, I've worked completely in marketing and innovation alone. So for me, it's probably a good point to tell you. There might be others who will disagree. But as a rule, even if you see on a corporate level, and if you see senior corporate people from, let it be HR, from finance, they have actually a lot of knowledge on marketing. And marketing is, and you call it networking, you call it whatever you might be, there's a lot of marketing involved, even in a senior leader being part of any large corporate group. So I've been a board member in a couple of companies, and there is a lot of marketing in terms of marketing your skills to people, talking to people about what you do. It's also about a finance person probably marketing what he can bring to the company, and therefore you might hire somebody for a CFO role or something like that. So all this is related to marketing and innovation. So how do you go about communicating? So I want to just kind of simplify this, because this is something which a lot of people, there are a lot of complex books you read about. My favorite book is still Kotler. Though, yeah, a lot of Kotler is, in a way, how do I say, a bit of jargon, but if some parts of it are really relevant and if understood well, they work with you forever. When you talk about communication, what do you have? You ideally start with a message. What is a message? I'm not trying to put any brands here because I want to avoid controversy representing my company as this, but there's a fast food, for example. So the fast food brand generally will have something which shows very delicious food shots, some really bubbly drinks. Then you will have media. Now, media typically could be in India is print, is TV, and also largely digital. But globally, and that's more so in Europe, we are seeing that it's mostly digital, because our print, our TV advertising budgets are quite low. People are on digital. There's a lot of purchase transactions which happen on digital. So for us, this is media. And what is the action? The action is that the consumer goes and picks up this product and eats. And that's what is all marketing is all about. So unless you have a message which is put on the right media, you cannot get an action. And that is what marketing is about. Now, when I say marketing, I'm probably simplifying it. I haven't gone into the 5 Ps. At some point, I will come to that. But I'm saying this is the core of what you see as marketing from the consumer angle. You see an ad, you see it on certain media, and there is certain act which the ad makes you do. Now, Beth Comstock from GE, she says, you can't sell anything if you can't tell anything. And this is very interesting, because good marketing is largely about storytelling. Now, I saw the previous speaker was from automobile, and automobile has got brilliant, beautiful ads because they've got such nice cars to look at. But I've also sold stuff like diapers, and I've sold stuff like which are very difficult to sell. I had obviously fun when I sold fashion, and I worked with celebrities like Kareena, and I worked with Kangana and whoever I could work with at that point of time. So it is easier to sell because there's something visual. But for most part of the time, there are brands where you struggle to tell a story. And this could be brands like insurance. I have friends who work on insurance. And 9 times out of 10, an insurance ad can be attributed to somebody else's ad. So an XYZ company runs the ad, but an ABC company gets attribution for the ad. And there is also an effect called the market leader effect, that whenever an ad runs in these sectors, it's the market leader who gains by any ad run on this on the channel. So that is a big issue for channels like that. It obviously gets easier and better if your product is differentiated, which is one major part of marketing. But have a differentiated product, say a story which can be then understood by the consumer. The products which really stand out, and I can give you an example possibly of Vodafone, which is an example in telecom, which really stood out at some point when they did the Zuzu ads, they did the Pug ads. The reason they stood out is simply because they had stories which were actually plain vanilla. There's nothing new about a network, but the way they created the story and they made the communications what worked. So which is why I'll come to the point of how do you craft a message. So I've just taken 3 messages. This is just randomly done because I kind of did it in a little short time. First, I'll take Pulsar. Pulsar is one of the brands I really speak about as an Indian brand, because Pulsar was the only Indian brand which has got really global recognition, at least even outside. I've seen it a lot. The story of how Rajiv Bajaj turned around Bajaj is obviously something all of you should read about. He's one of the people I look up to for sure. Then I spoke about iPhone. iPhone is obviously an iconic brand. There's nothing else you can talk about in terms of marketing. It's a brilliant product innovation, differentiated product, obviously, but also accompanied by good marketing. So sometimes, in fact, one of my friends from a competitive company tells me that his product is far better than the iPhone. But the way iPhone has managed to communicate their product, obviously the gap is now reducing in terms of communication. But the way the iPhone communicated the product and the way they created a cult around the brand, an ecosystem around the brand, is what's created what it is. And Complan, because it's a brand I worked on for around 4 years, so it's close to my heart. There's also a lot of controversy on Complan in terms of the communication we do. But then it's interesting. I just want to also keep some amount of controversy in this. So the 3 messages. Pulsar said something called definitely mail. iPhone, I'm talking about an iPhone 12 campaign called Relax, It's iPhone. And Complan obviously has the growth story, which is the 2x faster growth. The reason Pulsar says definitely mail, and that's a very interesting story, is at that point of time, and this is a story told me, and I do not know whether this is obviously what was thought about when they did the campaign. The story told me was that the Indian motorcycle brand or Indian motorcycle is all about masculinity. It's about a guy having a bike, and the bike being part of his persona or the masculinity which he exudes. And therefore, taking this campaign and position of definitely male at that point of time was interesting, because till that point of time, vehicles or cars were thought about in the feminine. They were never thought of or given as a male persona or a male characteristic. And this is something which Pulsar completely took by storm. They said definitely male. It was an interesting campaign. Relax, it's iPhone. So if you talk about iPhone normally did interesting campaigns about we have the best resolution, the fastest A12, A13, A14 Bionic processor. This one was different, and they said relax, it's iPhone. And this was the iPhone being put into different circumstances. Sometimes the iPhone was dipped in water, sometimes it fell down, sometimes it was almost about to be broken. And the phone survived all this. Now, the insight or the background, and I'll come to it at some point in time, was very different from what a usual iPhone sells for. And the third is Complan. Complan is completely benefit oriented. This is a benefit actually every child, I don't know if every child wants, actually, it's more of every mother wants, that her child needs to be taller than the other child, because for some reason she looks at the height being a parameter of her ability to nurture the child. It is a little twisted one in that sense, but that's how mothers used to react to communication or react to the fact of why height is important. As I go forward, so every message has a proposition benefit. So this is the proposition benefit, which is definitely male, relax, it's an iPhone, 2x faster growth. There needs to be a reason to believe. A reason to believe is what in marketing, in FMCG for sure, we put as something which will make the product sell. So why Bajaj definitely male, the fastest, most powerful bike? Because it has DTSI. It's called dual twin. I'm not the expert on automobile, but it has DTSI was a dual twin spark plug, if I remember my knowledge on this thing. Then on iPhone, what they did is they launched something called the ceramic shield. Now, if you come to know, and if you read about it, ceramic shield was nothing but an improvement on what was the Gorilla Glass at some point of time. It was actually an incremental improvement, but it was marketed as a really brilliant improvement. And what we had in Complan was something called 34 vital nutrients. We had now, the interesting part is, I'll tell you this on Complan for sure. In Complan, we had clinicals, which is for 2 years, we had to give kids both Complan and a blind product and see and prove that Complan helps growth in a certain manner. And that's where we get all the claims. But if we ever showed that in an ad, it would be the most boring ad in the world. So then we create these RTBs or reason to beliefs called a emotional or a hook, which kind of grabs your attention. So this is something like we called it 34 vital nutrients. So our competition holics used to do something called 23 vital nutrients. We did something called 34 vital nutrients, wherein we added a certain cocktail of vitamins and minerals which help you in growth. But the core of our growth actually, and what really drove our growth was something else, milk protein, which is probably Complan is one of the better products that way. It's based on milk protein, which is one of the best forms of protein. But we created this story simply so that the consumer had something to believe and the consumer had something to compare with competition. So 34 of Complan was obviously higher than 23 of Horlicks, and that kind of worked for us as a story. Now the proposition and benefit with the reason to believe is all based on insight. What is an insight? So the insight on bikes, like I said, bikes are a way to reinforce one's masculinity. Now people might disagree with it, one way or the other, truth or not, I can't say. I've really not owned a bike. But that's what came across as one of the reasons people have bikes. And bikes were also considered a rite of passage. When a kid reaches a certain age, giving him a bike, which is normally his first vehicle, was also the point when he turned from a boy into a man. So that was one way of reinforcing the masculinity angle. On iPhone, the interesting story was one of the reasons people were not buying iPhones, and it's not just because obviously they didn't want to buy into the ecosystem or get trapped in the ecosystem, was that people were worried about damage to expensive phones. So this is really, by definition, an insight really is something which is very particular to a category or to a consumer or to a brand. And mostly it's based on something which nobody else has thought about. But in these cases, actually, except for the Bajaj angle, the iPhone insight was something people knew about. Samsung long back had given this replacement of screen promotion at some point because they knew this was the barrier. But what iPhone did is they took it to the next level. They said, we know people are worried about damage to expensive phones, but we will not give a guarantee on repair because that means our phones will break. We're going to do it in a certain different way. And I'll try to show you that communication later. And that kind of completely broke the barrier, actually increased their sales. And for the first time, Apple, which is supposed to be a slightly delicate product, was looked as a robust product which would not break falling down, which actually is a very important parent. And any of us, and I've done that, who has broken an iPhone knows how expensive the screen is. So this was really a big part of communication for them. Then the last one, which is obviously close to me, Complan, so I can tell you this is a true insight, was that height of growth is a reflection of success of the child, which was said, which is something as bad as Fair and Lovely saying fairness is a reflection of success. But whatever, mothers believe that the height of growth was also a reflection of the mother's ability to nurture. So if a mother saw her son or daughter being taller than somebody else's son or daughter, she looked at it as she has done something better in terms of nurturing. Now, to be true, most of what we call height or what we call naturally acquired growth or height is all genetic. But the very fact that a product can give you a benefit or can give you some improvement in height is obviously something which really works for consumers. And that's the reason a product like this really works and people really want to buy it. Obviously, there is a lot of height or growth stunting which happens among lower class of people or people who do not have access to nutrition, which is largely malnutrition related. And actually, if you gave somebody with malnutrition a Complan, you would see a major benefit. But by and by, if there are two kids having a similar diet, the improvement seen by a product like this might not be very high. But just the fact that there is a possibility of being some improvement in growth compared to a normal diet is why a mother would buy this product. And so this is the insight and one of the most critical parts of communication. So what I'll do is I'll try to show you all a communication. I hope it runs. And this is the Apple campaign. The product is Apple 12. The insight was people do not buy expensive phones because they're worried about the cost of screen damage or replacement. And the benefit, iPhone 12 is a phone which doesn't crack easily. The reason to believe was a ceramic shield. And they ran this really interesting campaign and they did it really fuss-free like only Apple can do. one of the reasons I shared this communication is also one reason is on Zoom, I understand you can't share a lot of communication. There's a lot of issues with audio, etc. So this one is largely instrumental. So that's the reason I shared this. Is also, if you see the story, it's a very simple story. It's something all of us have faced. And the beauty of getting that insight, getting that slice of life, seeing how the consumers experienced the product at some point of time was brilliant. And then if you see, they have communicated the whole fact that that people do drop their phones. The Apple phone could be dropped by you, and there's no cover on it. If you see, interestingly, the phone fell down and yet it didn't crack. So they communicated that without any jargon, without any complicated terminology, and they just said ceramic shield, which is a basic reason to believe, and yet the communication came out really beautiful. And that's a powerful. That's a logic behind a powerful story. If you have a good story to tell and it's said well enough, that makes more. That's more useful than any of the jargon, any of the things you might use to sell a product. And that's the beauty of a product like that. What else can you use? So amplifiers. So if you look at a creative hook, what's a creative hook? So creative hook could be something like a Zuzu. The Zuzu catches your attention. The moment you see a Zuzu, you know it's Vodafone. Automatically, you associate the creative hook with the brand. You also see that as something which improves the brand. So for example, now you know you kind of associate everything good that is happening with the brand because this particular character or this particular icon or this particular instance works for you. Creative amplifier can also be something which is wacky or funny, which really works for you. So in this case, I was just saying Tele2, it's a brand here more than in India, but where they showed people it's a small business supposed to be a cat, and the cat was given a mane like a lion. So they say we empower small businesses, and that kind of worked for them as a campaign because people automatically realize it's simple, right? You understand the fact that even a cat can be a lion with Tele2 as a tool used for it. The second thing is celebrities. Obviously, you all must have gone through this at some point of time. Liked it or disliked it, I don't know, but Ranveer Singh is one hardworking celebrity on ads. So you must have seen the Ranveer Singh ads where he actually promotes a lot of products. Now, celebrities, I have a lot to talk about. I've worked with everybody from Amitabh Bachchan to Kareena Kapoor to Kangna to Surya from the South, and the South actors have been really good. Trisha from the South, another lady. So if you see, the point is a celebrity adds a lot of value in terms of the awareness which you can get from a brand. But the point also is the moment you bring a celebrity, you might also lose the brand essence. And many times you will see an ad, and I've run a lot of ads also, where the ad scores can get affected by the fact that because so-and-so celebrity has advertised some other product, your ad might get attributed to that other product if you are not clear or careful about your branding. But the advantage of a celebrity is the moment you have a celebrity, the awareness, the exposure which goes up is exponential. The reason I've shared this Ranveer Singh creative, I'm not a fan of the product per se, but the way they did the integration and the way they brought the celebrity into the ad meant that you can't miss the product, which is changed. And that automatically made a good integration. So obviously the actor Ranveer Singh brought about a certain awareness. The way they did it, Ranveer Singh obviously created enough awareness about the brand. And now, in fact, if you see any ad of his, there's more chance that you might assume it's an ad for Chings than an ad for anything else. And the last is sponsorships. And I've also been guilty, or I've actually done it also things. Sponsorships work, they have their own magic. The moment a Pepsi does an Indian Premier League, I don't know if the Premier League is the best example, but if you does an event, there is certain eyeballs you get. Now, the reason you also do this sponsorship is manifold. So one of the things, in fact, somebody who was sponsoring the Olympics and one of our teams was telling me is that the reason people keep, for example, sponsoring events like the Olympics is because if they back out, their competition will take the slot, and that's become almost like a prestige issue. Now, also thanks to the way the contracts are written, you must have seen that only sponsors can advertise on certain leagues or they can do ads in a certain manner. The reason being that then there's no cannibalistic advertising, there's no guerrilla advertising. Actually, this happened because Pepsi had done this. I don't know if you all remember this, but there was something called Nothing Official About It, a campaign that ran, which actually Thumbs Up or Coke was at that point of time the sponsor for the World Cup. But the way they ran the campaign completely defeated the sponsor's positioning. And that's the reason nowadays most leagues, etc., will also have a clause saying that if Pepsi is sponsoring it, Coke can't run an ad, for example, on the product. And that's something which has become part of the larger sponsorship story. Sponsorship is actually a slightly lazy way of marketing, but also it works in its own way. The The point is, if you do it for many years and if you have an association to a certain property, that really the property could mean you. And this is also now, for example, you see sponsorship now, sports stadiums. There's Alliance Stadium, there's Emirates Stadium. I think Arsenal Stadium is called Emirates now. They are, I think, obviously, football federations or sports federations are trying to avoid this as much as possible. But you can see there's a lot of sponsorship which even goes there. Historically, actually, and this might be surprising to you all who didn't see that, historically, in fact, a lot of these sports used to be sponsored by tobacco brands. And I was in ITC, so I've heard these stories, but I also was too young to really be part of it. But in the 80s, etc., it was the Wills who used to sponsor World Cups, Scissors, there were cigarette brands doing all this kind of sponsorship. So for a long time, these sponsorships were a way to be part of the larger conversation of brands, to be a part of a large exercise which is popular, and then you owning it and therefore getting brand coverage. Is that all there is to marketing? So what I told you is, so there is this whole discussion on how many P's are there, the 4 P's, 5 P's, 6 P's. So there used to be 4 P's when I learned marketing, which is price, promotion, product, and place. Now there's people in Unilever, we also have something called proposition. That's also another P we added. But I'm just sticking to these 5 P's. So this is kind of universal. The 4 P's, the older 4 P's, promotion, price, product, and place. So promotion is about how you promote a product, which obviously is what I spoke about all this time. The product itself. So if the product is not good, and I have seen this personally, that you, as a marketer, actually, we have a lot of work to do on the product. Much more in FMCG because most of our products come from consumer research. So when a consumer says she doesn't like the product, in fact, for me, it was mostly she, the mother, who used to tell me she didn't like the product. I had to go back and reevaluate and make the product fresh. So the product largely came from marketing. So that's why product was also part of our story. Price. In India, you must have seen sachets, which are still priced at 1 rupee. There are 2 rupee sachets. There are 5 rupee sachets. There are 10 rupee sachets. In India, especially where the currency note is still very important, irrespective of what was attempted earlier. A 5 rupee note can decide your brand. So, for example, we have worked, and I remember I used to work in ITC. I used to sell Sunfeast biscuits at that point in time. When we shifted our product price from 4 rupees to 5 rupees, we lost about 30% sale. And that is the impact 1 rupee of pricing could happen. Because the glucose biscuit, which I'm talking about, which we were selling, was being bought by people who had the lower strata of society, or by mothers who were buying it for the tiffin box of kids who were also from middle income, lower income households. So the moment we shifted from 4 to 5, they shifted to another 4 rupees product, because that 1 rupee per day also made a difference to their monthly budget. And that's how powerful price is. If you remember pricing communications, there was the Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola, the 5 rupees Panch Ka promise, which Amir Khan had done, which is the 5 rupees price communication. A good price point and a good pricing communication actually can change a lot of things for a brand. Brands which have actually been wrongly priced, and that's an issue actually, because profitability obviously matters a lot to us. And the moment we keep prices stagnant, or as an industry, we don't push prices up, everybody loses. But the moment we go out of the pricing equation, or we cannot justify the price for the value that we provide, the brand doesn't succeed. So you might have the best communication in the world, but without pricing, it can't work. People, there are 2 angles to it. People is also the consumers who take the product, who use the product and give you an idea of how that works. And on the other hand, people is also the people who work on the brand. So it could be your team, it could be the representatives of your organization. So I remember ITC was a good example of where our training is to be so rigid, or so, not so rigid, I would say so strict and so good, that the lowest level salesman also knew so much about the product compared to many other company salesmen. You could go to a salesman, he would tell you what was there in a Ashirwad Atta. He could tell you what was there in a Candyman chocolate. And that's the brilliance of good marketing, that the entire story is told across multiple touch points. And every touch point consistently speaks about the same message, speaks about the same quality, and represents your company. So that's people. And the last point, which I somehow have not covered here, is the place. Now, place to a large extent is about trade and is about sales. But there is also some amount of communication we do in the place. So place for you is whether it will be placed in a Kirana shop for me as a product, whether it will be placed in a mall, whether it will be placed in, I don't know, an e-com outlet, or it will be in an Amazon kind of a Omni kind of scenario. So in place also, you've got different kind of propositions. And today, more and more, with the advent of e-com and with retailers getting more and more powerful, and in fact, in Europe, the retailers are the ones who decide the prices, decide everything. Place is very critical for us. So marketing for us is about touch point marketing. So you have ads being done on the storefront, you have ads done on the gondolas where you keep the product. You have communications being run with Amazon. We have deals which we work with the Tesco's of the world, the Walmarts of the world, wherein we work communication plans with them, do our entire communication. And that's how it all works. So possibly I've spoken a lot about marketing per se, and this is what a lot of it is common knowledge. Some of it is obviously how I look at marketing, obviously absorbed from different media, from different people, from different marketing books, and put it all together. If this has been interesting to you all, I should tell you that this is an interesting quote which I really liked, which is that good marketing makes the company look smart, while great marketing makes the customers feel smart. And this is something actually one of my bosses had told me very early in my career, was that if you're really good at marketing, the customer feels good about buying a product. The reason the products I chose, which is actually Pulsar and iPhone for sure, is that the customer feels a certain ownership or a certain pride about owning these products. And that's what great marketing is about. It's not just about having a good product, which is obviously hopefully differentiated from every other competitor's product. And that seems to be more and more a hygiene or a necessity, but it's also making the customer feel really good about it. And that's what great marketing is. I hope I have been able to give you a gist of what the way we look at marketing. I think a lot of this is stuff you must have seen in books across the world. It's just I wanted to give it to you with live examples and how we really do marketing. It may not be as theoretical if you've heard about, but there's a lot more to do in marketing. I haven't probably taken you all through the entire gamut of how we go about research, how we go about insights, how we go about actually testing products, how we go about asking consumers where the next product will come from, business plans, acquisitions, innovations. There's a lot of stuff which we do, which is also part of our marketing. But I'm just trying to simplify marketing, trying to go back to what marketing used to be, the basics, what we started off marketing, the reason that made me excited about marketing, which made me want to do more marketing. And I've tried to put that in these slides. So I hope it's worked for you all. And obviously, if you all have any questions, I would like to answer them.
Thank you so much, sir, for your precious and knowledgeable words. With your permission, I would like to move forward to the question answer round, wherein we have a set of questions asked by our attendees. Beginning with it, the first and the most asked question by our attendees is, how important do you think it is for a brand to diversify and innovate apart from its main product or food in order to grow internationally?
Oh, it's very important. So I'll give you an example of two brands, Horlicks and Complan. I worked on both on Horlicks and Complan in different perspectives. Obviously, in Horlicks, I worked on innovation. I was not on the main brand. Complan, I worked completely on the Maize brand and other brands also. One of the things we found is there is a way you can expand a brand. So you can have a brand. So Horlicks used to be a health drink. And when it was a health drink, it's defined by a certain amount of consumers consuming it at a certain amount of time, which means kids have it once or twice a day in a certain form. They reach a certain age and they lapse out of it. More and more with the quality of milk improving, obviously they were not having it. So to expand Horlicks beyond a point, then you had to go into other categories. And that's where Horlicks looked at adjacency. Now, when you look at adjacency, you have to understand that a brand expansion should also be such that it adds back to the brand. You cannot expand it in such a form that it dilutes the brand. Therefore, when Horlicks went into biscuits, which is adjacent to breakfast, it was a great innovation. But if Horlicks, for example, launched talcum powder, then that would be a bad innovation, which actually erodes the brand and doesn't work for it. So extension or expansion is also about choosing the right verticals in which to expand, and also to ensuring that the brand core stands for something which is applicable. So Horlicks stood for nutrition. So everything that was done under Horlicks had to be nutrition, and therefore could be part of the larger expansion. Every brand in the world, if they want to grow, at some point has to expand. Also, you de-risk your growth, if you go for expansion. The moment you don't expand your brand or go into multiple brands, you kind of stagnate as a brand. In fact, if you've seen, there are a lot of brands in the world which you almost have not even heard about. So IBM used to be the de facto computer company when we were kids. Now IBM is just another software company. You can't even believe they don't do hardware any longer. That's because they didn't expand at the right time. They stagnated. They didn't get into mobile technology, etc. So it's very critical for a brand to survive.
Great insight, sir. There is so much that we can learn just from your experience. Last but not the least, when it comes to representing a brand in different countries, how do you diversify the marketing strategies according to that region of the world while offering the product to its people?
Yeah, so this is very interesting, and many companies have different ways of doing it. So I worked on Kraft Heinz, and Heinz used to be a tomato ketchup. So Heinz had this policy that they made the same ketchup in the same flavor across the world. So you could pick up a Heinz ketchup in any part of the world, and the taste would be the same. And that is one way of looking at the brand proposition expansion. But then there's another major market leader called Marlboro, who does cigarettes. And Marlboro actually does this interesting part wherein they modify the blend for every country. So actually, the Marlboro cigarette tastes different in every country, and it is suited to the people there and actually suited to the largest brand there. The reason they do that is they believe the brand is bigger than the taste, whereas Heinz believe the taste is what creates a brand. So they're two actually opposite routes of expanding it. So just giving two ways of doing it. Me on my own, for example, Huggies was something we did. Huggies had its own story in that in country by country, the way a diaper or a diaper pant was used was different. So therefore, the same brand could be slightly different in every country, but the core of the product, which is the fact that it absorbed well or was a strong proposition, would remain the same. So there's some which is the core of the brand, which would be the color, which could be the product performance characteristics, stuff like that, which would be common. But you would be tweaking the product per market because then you're also fighting a different set of competitors. And in a global brand, actually, you have so many different competitors in so many different parts of the world that it becomes important for you to really tweak the product or tweak what you're doing.
That's wonderful, sir. I'm sure this will help the aspiring candidates on their journey to success. With this, we come to an end to the question answer round. Thank you so much, sir, for giving wonderful insight into the field of marketing, and I'm sure it must have given all the attendees a clear picture of the real marketing world. Now, over to you, Sneha.
Thank you, sir. So, our last speaker for the day is Mr. Siddhant Narayan. He is the preceding Chief Marketing Officer of OnePlus India. Through his work, marketing approach, and mentorship style, he has brought tremendous rise and growth to the brand OnePlus in India. He has contributed to the success of brand and revenue goals of many organizations such as Daniel Wellington, Jio, and Nike with a distributive consumer marketing strategy. He has been voted as the top 50 most influential marketing leaders of 2021 and is a creative brand marketing lead and storyteller with extensive experience of creating iconic brands with a long-term strategic vision. The space is all yours, sir.
Mr. Siddhant is facing some connection issues. He'll be joining us in another couple of minutes. He's here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, great, lovely.
Sneha, can you give the introduction again?
Yes, sure. Our last speaker for the day is Mr. Siddhant Narayan. He is the preceding Chief Marketing Officer of OnePlus India. Through his work, marketing approach, and mentorship style, he has brought tremendous rise and growth to the brand OnePlus in India. He has contributed to the success of brand and revenue goals of many organizations such as Daniel Wellington, Jio, and Nike with a distributive consumer marketing strategy. He has been voted as the top 50 most influential marketing leaders of 2021 and is a creative brand marketing lead and storyteller with extensive experience of creating iconic brands with a long-term strategic vision. The space is all yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. That was indeed very kind. I apologize for joining a couple of minutes late. I wasn't feeling too well earlier, so I'm really sorry that I couldn't really join earlier and be a part of this. It looked like you had a very interesting first session, and it's really a privilege and an honor for me to be a part of this. I think so. The way we can do this is, I know that all the students here are really interested in talking about marketing and knowing more about marketing. And most of you all are looking at marketing as a very, very viable career option. So I think it'll be great if you want me to touch upon a few topics, or you would want me to answer any questions in particular, we can decide on the format. If you feel that something that I have done in the past interests you and you want to know more, and you want to deep dive further, we can do that as well. So absolutely open to questions, and we can take it from there on. And I can carve out I can narrate a few stories from my own experiences that probably you might find interesting as you go forward. So does that sound good?
Yes, so we can begin by by you sharing your experiences and your journey, and then
Sure.
that will be followed by the question and answers round.
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Uh,
So I think I've been very blessed and privileged to have worked in organizations that have been very consumer centric. They've been very, very uh, creative, very innovative, both in terms of product and advertising. So my journey began very much at my B school, where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Is marketing the calling? And yes, in my third semester probably is when I really realized that brand marketing is what probably excites me the most. And I was very, very fortunate to have some amazing professors in my B school who played a great role in influencing my personality, in influencing my likes. I'm still in touch with all of them, or rather most of them. So it gives me a lot of satisfaction, because for me, I have a lot of gratitude for the people who helped shape my career and professional career. Not just professional career, rather they made me the person who I am, bringing in a lot of values that I stand for today. Um, so that's it. It was a very, very inspiring journey for me, and I was and for me it was great, because I used to be a professional athlete till I was 21. So, and from there on to move into Nike very, very early in my professional career was almost, it was like a dream come true. I always tell this to people that very few companies in the world will allow you to go to office on a Monday morning and discuss Roger Federer, who is my favorite athlete. And so I had the great honor of working at Nike for close to 8 years, working with the best talents, working on some amazing, iconic advertising campaigns that Nike was part of. They're probably the best storyteller brand I've ever worked with. It's absolutely inspirational from start to end. Very, very engaging brand with the consumer, very consumer centric. They truly stand for what storytelling should be like. So that was a very, very inspiring journey for me. I got to work with probably the best, smartest minds around the world in the Nike office. It's a very, very global organization. And I always try and keep it very simple as to the work I did at Nike. I think my role essentially across my time at Nike was to literally give meaning to just do it in India. So that's because it's an emotional connection with the consumer. That was what defined my role, especially in the marketing team. What is the just do it spirit like, and how can a consumer relate to it? In a market like India, it's still very much, sport is still not very, very inclusive as such. It's still very distant from the consumer. We still have the mindset that cracking education is cracking life, and we want to try and bring in the philosophy that sport can be the X factor for you. It's not just an additional part of your life. It can actually be a part of your life. I mean, if you look at the results in the very recent Olympics, I think it's evident that the country is taking to sport. They're creating heroes, male and female. It's absolutely iconic now. So yeah, it gives a lot of joy and satisfaction to work in an organization like that. So from there on, I was offered a very interesting role, which was very, very, way much out of my comfort zone. So I was given the mandate to launch the Reliance Jio brand. I didn't know what Jio was going to turn out to be frank with you. And I was working with some very, very smart minds. So that was the first time I had actually gone to a different setup. And the mandate was really long. It was really wide, and it was about launching a digital first brand, and that was essentially the start of my love for literally tech and storytelling from a very very mass angle. So everything had completely changed dramatically for me, and I had to quickly adapt to the circumstances. And it was almost like a startup environment where people were trying to figure out what Geo's going to turn out to be. So right from building the brand book of Geo to the architecture, the strategy, it was a very very interesting journey for me. I had some very interesting learnings in the organization, and I had the privilege of working on some very very um, deep-rooted brand-centric messaging, which still exists, and it gives me a lot of joy and satisfaction. So it was a very, very brand-first role, and I think for a lot of aspiring marketeers here, I think this is a point where I realized the difference between what marketing is and what brand is. And further, if I had to double-click on brand, there is brand experience and there's branding. Right, a lot of people just vaguely use the term branding. It's not exactly the same. So creating a branding is just a subset of it, and that's when I actually realized the power of what a brand could actually stand for, and what does branding do. The purposes are relatively different as such in nature. And then from there on, I got the opportunity to work in an organization called Daniel Wellington, which was a very very digital first brand for the youth. It's European, Scandinavian, very minimalistic designing, and very, very. So it was my first understanding of the micro influencer and the macro influencer social marketing strategies. So that was very interesting for me. And from there on, and OnePlus happened. OnePlus, I'm sure most of you all know, and I'm guessing there must be a few consumers here as well of the brand. Very, very community-driven organization with values that come in from each other. Right, the brand has been co-created with the consumer. The product has been co-created with the consumer, and it's literally a tech-first brand. And last year was a very important year in the history of the organization, where it became one of the most successful smartphone organizations. So my role last year was literally to move the company from just a very very cool cult brand to more of a mainstream and accessible brand. And in the middle of that, I had the opportunity to launch Nord, which went on to become something very special. So I'm very very proud of that. And as I see that the new Nords that are coming out, it just gives me a lot of satisfaction and joy as to what that product has turned out to be. When the way we thought it and the way it's kind of moving forward. So that's very very interesting. And doing some very very interesting launches last year, working on with different digital marketing campaigns, a lot of tech first initiatives. It's been very very satisfying. So that's predominantly been my professional journey so far, and I'm very very happy and excited to be here, and hoping to take any questions from you all.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experiences with us. Now we would like to entertain a set of questions from our attendees. So our first question for you, sir, is that how do you think marketing has changed in the past 10 years, considering digital marketing is capturing the marketing domain very fast?
It's a great question. I'm going to start by probably flipping this question and tell you that it's not the marketing that's changed, it's the consumer that has evolved. And the way the consumer has evolved, their choices, their preferences, the brands that they relate to have started to move very differently. The same consumer who was very, very inclined towards traditional brands earlier has started to get moved to omni-channel and digital first brands, which means that the brands now have to quickly start evolving their strategies. So which has resulted in the growth of some very, very interesting new age organizations. That's the first shift. The consumer evolution is the first shift. The second shift in all of this is the fact that the conversations with brands have become 0-degree relationships, which means that it's not the era of just putting up an ad on television or putting up a billboard ad anymore. It doesn't strike a chord with a lot of people, especially the youth of today. They want more personalized experiences, and probably digital is the best way to do it. And so these are two of the important shifts that have happened in the minds of the consumer, which has also made brands to realize. And third, obviously, is that digital is far more measurable as a strategy, as a function, and where you can really know who your consumer is, whom are you engaging with, how are you talking to them, who's responding, what are their likes and dislikes. So it gives you a lot more accountability. So that's the way I see it.
That's what really inspiring, sir. There is so much we can learn only through your experiences. So the next question is, according to you, which is the most important factor in building good consumer demand or attracting more customers towards the brand?
That's a good one. I think probably, to be very frank with you, the way I've always seen it is that it always starts by creating, desire and demand for the brand can be created if you have a great product, right? Or a service, or whatever you may be, you may be working on. And that has to be on point. And most of the brands that are generally starting to do well are the brands that are probably have a leg of an innovative mindset to it, which means that they have the flexibility to innovate consistently, and that is creating result in desire and demand for that brand, and that makes a very, very significant difference, because the way marketers need to approach things, or the way rather I approach things, is that you build desire and demand for the brand, and it can only happen if the anchor is strong, right? The product is strong, or the experience is strong, and the service is strong. And that's when the marketing comes in, right? You kind of create that aura and desire and demand for the brand, and then you use profitable channels to service that demand through sales, right? So it all starts with that.
Great, so very well explained. Now we will go on to the most asked question by our audience, that is, how much do you think marketing can change the game of a brand on the journey to success, and why?
Could you say that again? Sorry.
How much do you think marketing can change the game of a brand on the journey to success, and why?
Well, organizations. There are multiple phases in an organization, right? First, like I said earlier, it's about ensuring that your product or service is absolutely on point, and thereon, marketing comes in to really amplify that. So for me, marketing can become like the X factor in bringing success to the organization. But it's very, very important to also understand, and I've always believed in this, right? Marketing can do a phenomenal job in storytelling, but the product and the service should hold true as well. So they go hand in hand. And marketing is absolutely, for me, one of the biggest drivers. It's a driving function in any company. It's not a support function, it's a driving function. So if you're a driving function, marketing will actually be the catalyst between, good and absolutely amazing. So that's the way I see it.
That was indeed inspiring, sir. Now we'll move on to the fourth question. What advice would you give to people aspiring to make a career in marketing?
All right. So I think it's very important that organizations of today are really looking at, firstly, it's important to understand whether marketing is the way forward. There are some ingredients that I've always looked at when I've worked with marketers, whether it's a passion for storytelling, whether it's passion for advertising, whether it's a creative mindset, or do they have an analytical mindset. So there are certain very, very interesting factors that come in play, because that leads to what you want to do within marketing. And marketing has become so big. Marketing has evolved so dramatically, right? From what it was a decade ago into what it is now. You can literally build careers within smaller subsets of marketing. Absolutely, digital can literally be a career for you. And within digital, there's performance, there's social media, there's community, there's so many different things, right? The same thing with PR as well. So at the outset, it's important to understand what are the things that excite you. Is it the communication angle? Is it the brand building angle, or the storytelling angle? So there are different facets to it. And I think once you get that, and then it's good to dive further. But I would definitely encourage all the students that you should pick something that can make you a specialist rather than a generalist to begin with, right? And as you become a specialist first, you try and build more credibility in that function, and then you try and expand again. So what I did was that I tried to become a specialist, and I got something, and then I expanded again. So that generally gives you an opportunity to then, to then look at other things, to work on cross-functional campaigns, cross-functional works and projects, etc.
That's great, sir. Last but not the least, sir, our audience wants to know as to what skills do you need to get into the field of marketing?
Okay. Firstly, passion is very, very important. It shouldn't seem like a force fit. It should come from within. My experience is that, was that, like I said, I was an athlete earlier, so Nike was a very natural force, like a natural place to be. So it never felt like I was working. It always felt like, I'm following my passion. The same thing at OnePlus, at Geo, because tech was another passion of mine. So it just felt more organic in nature. I'm someone who absolutely, encourages people to understand what their passion is, and try and dive into that. That's the first thing. The second thing is very important to understand, and probably it's too early right now for students, but I think in a couple of years in, it's very important to understand whether you are more inclined towards the creative side of marketing, or you are more inclined towards the analytical side of marketing, right? Because both are amazing places to be in. And you can pick either of these two, and then you can try and, shape it towards roles that align with that, what it excites you, because then it will come naturally to you, right? But always, it's always important that in the start of your professional journey, to try and be in as many places as possible, because you will probably be working with sales. You probably understand what business development looks like. You want to understand the entire customer funnel. You need to understand how you attract customers on the top of the funnel. How do you service them? You need to know the entire piece. So yeah, there are quite a lot of ingredients that I always recommend students to look out for, and they will all come to you. They will all come naturally and organically. Don't try and force fit anything. If you're passionate about something, you just try and figure out ways to pursue that passion.
That's really helpful, sir. I'm sure all the aspiring students will definitely follow your advices. It's really amazing getting such great advices from you. With this, we come to the end of the question answer round. We thank you, sir, for you have answered the question with sheer brilliance, which must have cleared all the doubts of the students and given them detailed understanding of marketing. We hope that the session has been enriching to all our attendees, but we have a lot more to offer and hope to have such events in future. I would like to give the space to Amrita, General Secretary of Urja, to share a vote of thanks to the speakers and our attendees.
A warm and lovely afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the entire college, teachers, and Team Urja, I extend my heartiest gratitude to all the speakers for sharing their wise and graceful words with us today. It has been a great pleasure to host all of you here today. Team Urja is thankful to all the teachers for their support and guidance, without which this event would not have been possible. We're extremely thankful to the speakers for taking out time from their busy schedules and sharing with us their wonderful journey. It truly has been a pleasure hearing from your experiences and getting to learn from all of you. Last but not the least, we would like to thank everyone present here for being such a wonderful audience. Once again, we thank everyone for joining us today, and we hope that this session has been enriching for all of our attendees. We have a lot more to offer, and we hope to have such events in the future as well. Team Urja wishes everyone a great day.
We request you all to kindly fill the feedback form that is posted in the chat box. Only those who have filled the feedback form will be receiving the e-certificates within 2 to 3 weeks. We hope to have you all for more such sessions, and we wish good luck to everyone. Stay home, stay safe with your families. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good luck to everybody.